And we're live. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. It is 6:30 a.m. It's so early. Why do we do this?
I don't know. Did you
I don't
even?
know.
I was up. I watched everything last night. Did you?
Yeah, I don't sleep that much. I have like a problem. I only sleep like, I don't know, like average 6 hours. So that's like a normal sleep for me. And I've been up since 5.
No,
Um,
no, no. I like my 8 hours, which I haven't been getting lately. So
right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely enjoy my 8 when it happens, but I work from home. So my little man's been home for like the week because they're in between summer and normal school, and so when they're home, I don't work during the day. So like I either get up really early or like I work late at night. So um,
you got a
yeah,
little one running around too. So that's never. Yeah.
yeah, he's crazy. Yesterday was orientation, and he's almost 2, but he's in the 1-year-old class, so he's like he's like an October birthday, and he's just like a monster compared to everyone else. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
They're
And I'm like,
fun.
yeah, he just like runs around and he just like bodies them. He's just like, bam. And I'm like, ah. I'm like, be nice. Like, you outweigh this kid by like 7 pounds.
I know. No spatial awareness. No social.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's
No,
fun. They're fun.
yeah, no fucks given for
Yeah,
sure.
none.
How's my audio?
It's good. Yeah,
Okay,
I got you fine.
cool. Um, yeah, how'd you like yesterday? Did you watch everything? You said you watched
Yeah,
everything, all the heats?
yeah. I think I missed one or two, maybe here or there.
Sure.
Um,
Good
but
morning.
yeah,
Good morning.
it
You're fine. You're going.
morning. Hey Craig. But yeah, I so many emotions all the way through. Like I
Sure.
feel like my emotions changed through every heat, every event. It was so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was it was interesting. It definitely felt like it like ebbed and flowed
Yeah.
throughout the entire day. Um yeah, it was strange. Like I think it was flowing, and then Luca's post made it ebb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was like here, and then it was like ah. Um and so I'm
I
gonna
thought once we got through the first event, I felt like it was great to see, some people stood on the starting mat for a minute and that's
sure.
how they, honored some people didn't want to compete anymore.
Hmm.
So,
Sure.
that's how they dealt with it. That's fine too. Some people did compete and went hard straight out the gate.
Hmm.
And it just, I think it was a nice way to show that everybody grieves differently. Everybody processes it differently. And I appreciated that, seeing that, and the athletes do that.
Yeah, it's definitely such like a an interesting time, right? Of like everyone grieving, or like, I think it's hard to kind of define like who's grieving, who feels like their grief needs to be expressed exceptionally publicly. Um, and yeah, I just hope everyone is like genuine with their stuff. But it seems like it is, right? I think everyone's going to have their opinions on what people are doing. um but
It's
yeah, it's tough.
I agree with CrossFit completely, and definitely I think giving everybody the option of how they wanted to handle it was the right way to go, because everyone's gonna feel it differently. It's gonna hit them at different moments.
Sure.
There were points where I completely teared up. I forget the guy's name, but when they had the empty lane and he just went and sat.
Oh,
uh,
Moritz.
yes,
Hmm.
I total waterworks
Yeah.
during that.
Yeah.
Um,
uh
so
yeah, it's good. I think I hope that today we can continue to do the thing and compete. um it did definitely feel like event 2, the rope climb workout, it was everyone was just like unsure what was allowed and like what they were okay doing, like with the athletes. And the teams, like in our inside of WOD Prep, the Dave post of like mayhem. Like I know that post didn't do what it did, the exact opposite of what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to show that mayhem is doing a certain, like, expressing their honor in a certain way by competing really hard, and that the other teams decided to wait the minute, but then they were ostracized for not waiting, which was bullshit, by the way. Like
I think so
I
too.
don't have a lot of like hard opinions on I do have a lot of hard opinions, but this isn't this isn't the space to like, to do that. But like, that's one that I was like, it was insane. It was insane to think that like mayhem, like those 4 people have probably trained with Blazer as much or more than anyone.
Yep.
Like he trained by himself basically before he got to mayhem. And then he was at mayhem for a long time. And then he just went on his way, or Proven, or whoever, I don't know, wherever he was. I think he was Proven, or Luca was for sure. And then he was kind of training on his own again. And so to think that mayhem wasn't honoring him, or like that was like they were putting their competitive desires over that, I thought was stupid. That post was completely misconstrued, 100%.
And the truth
I
be
was very
told, like
frustrated with that.
different mayhem athletes chose to handle it in different ways. Like the mayhem team went and competed hard, but there were some mayhem athletes that waited the minute.
Yeah,
There
sure.
were, you know what I mean? There's some that, then you had some withdraw when they felt it.
Yeah, I think Victoria withdrew, right? Victoria Campos.
Yeah, and then Guy withdrew, and Cornway withdrew, or he retired. I guess.
I think he's injured. I think he was injured too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Did he retire? What is that, a post?
Yeah, he posted that.
What? All right.
Yeah, he's going to go back to take care of himself, which I completely respect, to coach and take care of himself, and he should.
Sure.
But all mayhem athletes, they all honored him differently. So
right. Well, I mean, even within the same camp, right?
Yeah.
Like you have Laura and her brother not competing, but Gabby's competing,
right?
Which I assume is for sure putting a riff in their camp. Like I can't imagine like everyone's okay with it, but that's their right? They can do whatever they want, And so, but like that's crazy, right? Like I mean, like that's your best friend, that's your husband or fiance or whatever it is. They're not going to compete, but you're going to compete. So everyone has that right to do whatever it is, right? So
I mean, you even saw what's his face when he started crying, which also made me cry. No, the 2-time champ, what's his name? Justin. Sorry, it's early, guys, I apologize. And then he started crying, and then he went balls to the wall on that workout, and it was just like he's having a lot of feelings and he's getting them out by working out hard. Like that's also okay.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's I think everything's fine, right? I think it's everything's not fine. I think everyone is handling it how they feel they should. And like, did you read Elisa Fuliano's post last night?
No, I haven't seen hers. No.
It was long. It was, it's unfortunate. I think she felt pressured from the athletes or maybe CrossFit to continue competing, which I hope that's just, not fully the case, but and then she tried to compete and it didn't work. Right. I think we'll see maybe like 1 or 2 more athletes probably not take the floor today, or we'll, move on after that. So, and then it is what it is. Right. I hope the crowd can continue to have energy and we can continue to.
I was thinking about this yesterday. I wanted to ask you, if you want to move on, that's fine. But when I lost friends, because I lost friends in a car crash 10, 20 years ago. And I remember feeling like
10 or 20, those are huge different numbers, by the way. Like
I'm 40, everything's a decade or two behind me.
And at 30, it's totally different. It's totally different
so
when you're in high
20s,
school. Okay.
Early 20s.
Are you 40? Wait, what?
I'm 43.
Jesus Christ. I'm going to look like I'm 78 when I'm 43. You look like you're 23. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Sorry. Context matters. But yeah, I was in my early 20s when they passed, and I felt like it almost felt like I couldn't give, if I moved on and I gave myself permission to keep living life, that I would be forgetting them somehow, or
100%.
not bringing them with me, or you know what I mean? And to once I gave myself permission that they're always gonna, like, they're never gonna leave me.
Hmm.
I'm always gonna remember them. That time period in my life is always gonna be something that I remember crisp and clear.
Hmm.
And so I think at this point it's just people trying to figure out how to give themselves you're not going to forget him. You're not He's always going to go with you, kind of
Sure.
thing. And
Yeah.
that energy kind of changed towards the end of the night last night, I feel like.
Hmm.
And I
For
kind
sure.
of found myself, cheering again, cheering for Gracie Walton, cheering for the
Sure.
boys when they were,
Yeah. Was there a question there?
like, is that how you
Um,
kind of,
yeah, I think death like strikes me different because experienced a lot of it, like double digit close to
oh,
me, and uh and like over the years, and so like early on it was very emotional, right? As like a young kid, like freshman in high school, we lost like four of our friends in like separate situations within like a 3 month time span. We were all in classes together. Like we were in a huge high school, right? Like 1,000 kids in our grade, but like our friend group, like one was like a drunken fall, right? And like broke his nose and like died on impact. The other one was a car crash. And and so and then, lost a few friends to suicide and drugs. And so I think they all hit a little different. And so I think the way that I process is just more of, like looking at them and, just trying to think of what they did, and how they lived their life and the happiness that they had. And yeah, and just to be honest, there's people watching, and there's not 1,600 people watching, but selfishly, I think of like a lot of how this is, like I mourn them, and I feel for the family and all these things, and CrossFit as a whole and the people that were close. But my whole life is tied into this. Like, okay, I'm a very pragmatic person, and I'm like, okay, how is this going to directly affect me and my family? Like, do I need to start thinking of like preparations for CrossFit to cease to exist or whatever that may be, right? And that's like for sure a fault, right? Like I feel exceptionally guilty for having those thoughts, but I run a business and I'm part of a much bigger business, and and like how CrossFit handles things, and the ups and downs of CrossFit over the past 5 years could, like make me feel like I'm 1,000, like I mean,
yeah.
and so like those are all the thoughts that run through my head, right? And so, um, I just think of just trying to like be as optimistic as I can moving forward, that everyone's going to get through it the way that they need to. And I mean, that's kind of it. When it's really close to me, like I'll drop whatever I'm doing and just be supportive of those people. But I can't support anyone directly right now. I don't know anyone that close or anyone that it's like affecting that much, So that's usually how I cope. Like I help those that it's affecting the most around me. And that's like my normal gist, right? Like this
Yeah.
is, hopefully this is like a way that helps people cope and discuss it in a, like a non-threatening manner. And so this is how I manage it.
I hear you. Well, and too, and a lot of the athletes and a lot of the people there, they're in their like mid late 20s, and
They're
that's
babies.
kind of when your mortality realization kicks in.
Sure.
That you can't just go skiing off a mountain and you're gonna, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna bounce back and everything's gonna be okay, or you're
Hmm.
gonna drag race, in the middle of the night at whatever. And like that's when you start to realize that you're not gonna live forever. And
Hmm.
then for something this traumatic to happen, it's really in your face, and you're really like, oh my goodness,
Sure.
like this is real. This I'm not.
Yeah.
It's not a video game. I'm not.
Hmm.
And I think for some of them that it is hitting them as the weekend go like, oh yeah, no, this isn't a game.
Yeah. I also think that a lot of them are babies, right? And I don't want to say like they grew up sheltered by any means, but most of them probably have never experienced death this close to them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so it's different. It's different when you've never experienced death this close to you. Um, and and so, you know, like that's a really hard thing, right? Like when as you get older, like it's just kind of part of life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, right? That's like the most unfortunate thing to say, but it just is. Or if you've been unfortunate to experience a lot of it early in life, um, you get numb, probably isn't the right term, but you get conditioned to what it is, and so most of them and most of the people in the limelight, like our athletes, are young, and they've probably never experienced anything like this.
Yeah.
And so yeah. Um, anyways, good morning, chat. How's everybody? Hopefully everyone is feeling a little better than yesterday. Hopefully you guys can all enjoy the CrossFit day a little bit. I haven't watched. Did you watch Dave's post last night? It was really late.
It was really late. I've seen some of it. I saw the beginning of it
All
where he
right.
starts to kind of explain stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Mediocre at best. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that's a reference to. All right, share screen.
Oh, are you talking about Firestorm? Oh, I thought that was great.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Whoops, not that one. There we go.
Just finished up at the Farrington Field. I'll go over it today, starting from the beginning.
We're gonna go 1.25.
Closing with that. So, start of the morning. We had a new schedule. We had a new format for the event to kick off. I actually went and met with Luca this morning. He conveyed that he wanted to be involved, or he wanted to be at the tribute. He didn't want to be involved, but he just wanted to be there behind the scenes. So we then from there had that conversation with him, organized that going down, went to the venue. While at the venue, started preparing for our tribute. Was at 10 a.m. So, or was it at 10 a.m.? It was at 10 a.m. It was 10 a.m. Yeah, it was 10 a.m. And so he ended up showing up. We took the athletes on the floor. We had a little tribute, something small at that point. Moment of silence for all the athletes on the floor. Kind of a intro the athletes to bringing them slowly back out to the fans and show them, ease them back out prior to coming on the floor. And after that, then we had to start the first competition. And
all right, so I'm not one to like have a lot of gripes, but I did feel like media could have put a video together just personally. Like I feel like something could have happened. Hiller's video is great. Talking League Fitness. I don't know. I feel like a few other people put something together. I feel like CrossFit could have had something. I don't know if that in I don't want to say it's like CrossFit being insensitive or anything like that, but I felt like a little more effort could have been put into that, right? But again, that's also like an expectation of the media team that might be like a little high. So I don't know.
My knee-jerk reaction, Colleen and I watched it together live, and this is why this is fun, is because we both had different knee-jerk reactions to it.
Sure.
She's just crying her eyes out watching it. And then when it finished, I was just like, oh, that wasn't great. That wasn't great at all. And
I definitely think there's like a split thought process.
They're damned, but CrossFit's kind of damned if they do, they damned if they don't.
Sure.
I definitely thought throughout the rest of the day when Cara came up and spoke and some of the other athletes spoke, and then, and then when they printed the t-shirts and all the athletes that wanted his t-shirt, I thought that was awesome. Agreed. They do that in sports all the time. When something happens, they put somebody's number on their jersey. I thought it got better as the day went on. But that initial one, I kind of had that knee-jerk reaction too.
Yeah, and so and again, like you said, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You're not going to please everyone, right? That's just my thought. I felt like they could have made something.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. So, MD690, the more time passes, I want the games to stop. There must be a way to give the prize money to athletes. And so the problem with this is like this doesn't reward the competition, right? It doesn't reward athletes appropriately for the work they've put in. You know, there's 60 athletes on each side, right? So you have 30 and 30 that aren't going to make a lot of money, and this would just be, you know, like I think splitting it across the board is not a is not beneficial, right? There's people there, people want to see competition. There's athletes that want to compete. They sent out a survey. It was um, you know, 80% said yes, right? It was an anonymous survey, and so the the thought on the inside of the athlete camp is that they're competing, right? If they have the option to not compete, then they don't have to compete, right? I mean, your two champions aren't competing, right? So the pressure of like, you know, I should compete because everyone else is doing it. Well, literally your two biggest figureheads in the sport aren't doing it, right? And
Yeah.
so you have that option and they're choosing not to have that option. And um, I don't think splitting the money across the board solves anything, just personally. But you know, that's just my opinion. Uh, I do feel I don't this is I yeah, I don't know. It is funny. Like I'm just like, should event one just like be nixed from the like the history books forever, right? Um, I don't know. Yeah, it's like, or does that dishonor Lazar?
That's what I was gonna say. Then
Yeah, I
does
don't
that
know.
show that it didn't happen?
Sure,
Then it's kind of to me like, well, then you are trying to forget it. Not saying anybody but it to me it would just feel like that.
sure, yeah. Um, and then this is like, you know, the more I watch event one, this is something different for sure. I don't ever want to watch that video again. I'm just going to be honest. Like it's never something I want to watch ever again, right? And I used to, and like, you know, like I've like been through like, I don't know, like what was that old website like with YouTube? Break something. I don't know, where like you could like find people like, you know, like find people dying like in like the dark
Oh,
web or something like that. Like
no.
those weird things. Like and
No.
so but like you know, this is like a connection to you. And so like I don't ever want to watch that again. Um
And that's the
uh
hard part is that video is everywhere now.
it's
Every news
everywhere.
station clipped
Sure.
it. They zoom in on it. They
Hmm.
pause it.
Sure.
It's like, ugh.
Yeah, like I said yesterday, like it's a it's like when there's replay in the NFL, right? Everything looks worse, right?
Yeah.
It's like how could you not call that hold and how could you not see this? And again, before when it's very clear that they were understaffed and there weren't enough people on the water and you know, it's very clear that there was a safety protocol failure. I don't think anyone is doubting that. Um, but you know, like
Yeah.
Don released a press release that they're going to hire a third party for internal investigation, which is great. I think that's the number one thing that they can do. I hope that that is exactly what they say they're going to do, right, and nothing else, right? I hope it's not just a face or a like a facade or like a fake.
It always
So
feels sketchy
yeah,
when companies say that though, because that's the first thing they always say. And then
sure.
so not saying they won't, not saying I'm sure they will. I'm sure it'll
Hmm.
be handled wonderfully. But I call sketch on it.
Sure. Agreed. All right. Back to it.
Yep.
which was at 11 o'clock. And at that point, I started hearing, hey, so remember the day before, and I didn't talk about it here, but I've talked about it now in other places, specifically the broadcast, this huge process we went through with the athletes to get to this point where we did the competition. And so basically what that looked like was yesterday, after everything that went down, we discussed what a plan, what course of action that we would take would be. And so we said we would like to continue on with the competition if we could get the blessing of the family, which we did. Then we went and told the athletes that. That conversation got, they felt like they didn't have, at the point that I presented, they felt like there was a lot more they needed to say. So we facilitated a platform for them to speak more and to speak their mind. And that went back and forth and had multiple iterations.
All right. So one thing that I want to bring up is a lot of people are calling for CrossFit's head, right? And CrossFit should be held responsible for, for what they need to be held responsible for. Okay. But, but ending the games, in my opinion, could make CrossFit cease to exist. Had they stopped the games and had to refund everything, I mean, like tickets, sponsors, because you spend a lot of money, right? Like it costs millions of dollars to put the games on. Okay. And I'm not saying that Lazar doesn't deserve any of this. I'm just like being just very like direct and pragmatic. Had they ended the games and had to refund everything, right? There's a chance that they go bankrupt and it just completely ceases to exist within the next 6 months, right? Someone buys it for pennies on the dollar, and hell, maybe that ends up being the best fucking thing ever and private equity gets out of the equation. But that is a very real concept. And so for them to want to continue the games, obviously there's a little bit of that has to be a business decision, and that's okay, right? Like Lazar wouldn't want CrossFit to cease to exist, but it definitely could. Like this could easily end this whole thing, right? And all 150 of you watching right now, and 100,000 that were watching last night, there would be nothing to watch ever again, right? Like that's very possible. And I'm not saying that, that like CrossFit continuing to exist is more important than Lazar's life. It's not by any means for within a million miles of a stretch, but it is, it's a very real possibility that had they stopped everything and nothing happened, that like we would be, like this, we would never have these conversations again, right? Like we would all have to go find other jobs. All the athletes would go be, coaching at their fitness gym. Cause I don't think CrossFit would even be a brand personally, but that's my opinion. And you're right. I don't know what Lazar wants. I have no idea, but I can only assume that he dedicated 10 years of his life to this or I don't know, 8 years, I think, that he wouldn't want it to just cease to exist regardless. So
I scrolled through a lot of comments, and I think the money part of it is, something that's off-putting for a lot of people, and they're,
sure.
They're very mad about podcasts monetizing, talking about him, or they're mad at the games for thinking about money before thinking about people's feelings. I don't think that's the case at all for anybody, sure. But I can see why people would think it or have it be off-putting.
Yeah, for sure. I don't disagree with people feeling in their way, right? I'm just saying that had it went the other way, right? Because I think this camp is like 50-50, right? No one competes. The games are done. Everyone goes home. Our landscape would be very different in a negative manner for a very long time. And so I think the other camp is that continuing the games helps people heal. And I don't know if that does. I know the fans appreciate being there and supporting and still having something to cheer about and crying with the athletes. Like people appreciate that. Right. So yeah, I don't know.
And if it does go under, that's a lot of people's livelihoods. That's a lot of families.
Sure.
No jobs, so that's tough too.
100%. Yeah. And, like I said earlier in this call, like, selfishly that I'm struggling with, like, I'm thinking about like, how is this going to affect me in the long run? Right. So anyways, again, I don't think there's a right answer. But I do
Kenneth, I
think,
do see the healing in it. You can see people starting to heal as the games go on.
sure.
Like you saw it with Hopper and Jason or Hopper and Dallin, and then that you can see it start to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope it gets better the next 2 days. And I hope that, you know, everything is done to um, go forward. And so, I think a lot of people feel, like especially the athletes that continuing, maybe not a lot, but the ones that aren't continuing, it's insensitive, and that's their right to feel that for sure. I don't think that's everyone's thing. That is just kind of it's a hard thing to kind of grasp. But the people that, are ready to compete are there, and they're competing, and they're doing their thing. Right.
Yeah.
And that's how they feel. That's how they're going to grieve and move on and honor him and that kind of stuff. So, all right.
A lot of people were angry. A lot of people didn't want to compete. I would say a few loud voices were saying a lot about not competing, and then there was a number of others who were coming up to me on the side saying, "Hey, we really do want to compete and want to continue on." So then, before making a decision, I said, "Hey, we're going to send out basically a survey so every athlete has a voice and is able to say which direction they'd like to go." Came back, 78% of them said they wanted to continue on with the competition. We gave input on a couple different schedules or options, both schedules starting today, and the one that had better results was the one I preferred to do, which was start earlier, and so we ended up going with that route. We also had a kind of a committee of athletes where we discussed how the rest of the competition would look if it was an exhibition or an actual competition. A lot of them were leaning towards competition. Some were saying exhibition. We said we're going to do a competition. Also for the prize money, we said we're not. There was talk of distributing amongst all athletes. We said we're going to give it to the winners. So I made those decisions as last night. So then today, though, post the ceremony, or I'm sorry, the tribute, apparently there were a lot of athletes who were pretty upset, and so I was told the athletes are getting together and having more discussions about withdrawing and more discussions about not competing. And at that point, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get involved in that. They've
I just want to. So this is such an interesting thing, right? The 80% do not have to be right. I don't think anyone's right in this situation, right? But I think the only way that you can do it is a majority, right? Just like you vote for the president. Whether you think or you don't think whoever should be president, this is just the answer, right? Like 51% or 58% or 60% vote for this person, and you can fucking hate that person, right? With every ounce of your body, and you can think that they're going to do a terrible job and all the things, but it doesn't matter because that's how majority rule works. And it's just the only option in this situation that was viable. It's literally the only option, right?
Yeah, I agree with you
There's
100%.
not even a question that this is the only way to make a decision, right? So anyways, yeah. But keep them coming. I love the comments.
We're not going to put ourselves in this position to have these conversations again where we're going to delay the competition. We've put it forward, we put the plan forward, and we're committed to that. And so right before the first heat started, I kept getting updates. Okay, how many athletes have withdrawn? How many? And at the end of the day, a lot of them still did continue. I think a couple men did not. I'm sorry, a couple women did not. One man did not. I think obviously since then a few have, for a variety of reasons. I don't know what those reasons are. And so, but the overwhelming majority are still competing and decided to compete. The first event was heavily modified, and it was heavily modified. Some people ask why we modified it from the 5 rope climbs. The 5 rope climb version was a very different event, and the 3 rope climb version, what I mean is much longer. I mean, it's 10 more rope climbs. And the version we were actually going to do at the games was going to be from the seated position, seated to the top. And so we decided to go down to 5. We had to move the time cap from 30-minute because of all these other schedule changes going on. And because Farrington Field, because it was on ESPN2, because that window couldn't change, everything else had to condense. It couldn't expand or stay the same. And so we then created a 25-minute block with a 20-minute cap and decided to go with the 5-rep version, and tested it at the last moment this morning and realized that the testing athletes were not going to finish under the 20-minute time cap. So then at the last minute, like all this morning, like all right before the event started, I told our team, I'm like, hey, I want every individual to be able to finish this.
All right. This is a really good point, and I was hoping he would comment on this. So for those that don't know, um, uh, they changed the workout from 5 rope climbs to 3, which was a substantially different workout. And so I was trying to figure out why they did it, and um, I figured they'd shorten the time cap, so figured there, and then he wanted everyone to finish, which was a really good testament because the same winners still won, right? And maybe
Oh yeah.
there could have been like maybe just a little bit, maybe like at the I think the bigger guys probably got a little bit of an advantage, but the girls were still all in the same camp. And I think some of the bigger guys probably got an advantage. 10 less rope climbs is a pretty big deal. But just to be honest, that workout was a complete and total like onslaught of pain. Could you imagine that workout being 10 more rope climbs? Holy shit. That would have been
People were
wild to
already
watch.
getting no rep to
Dude,
death.
they were crushed. They were so crushed. They could barely hold on to a 225-pound deadlift, and those guys deadlift 600 pounds.
Yeah, when you started seeing singles, I was like,
hmm
oof, that's
Yeah,
tough.
for sure. There's so much hip flexion and core fatigue and midline fatigue. It was tough. Yeah, for sure. Uh, Keeping it real, Ariel competed. Are you saying she's not competing today? Is that what you're saying?
No, I
They
think
were
what he's
missing.
saying was she wasn't planning on competing
hmm
and then came back afterwards to compete. I
Got it.
think, yeah.
Um, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be emotional for a lot of people for sure. But that was really good on Dave to change it. Obviously there were scheduling limitations too. So, um,
Evelyn,
yeah.
I like your comment too. I believe that wholeheartedly. Yeah, many things can be true at the same time. This is very difficult and rare situation. There's not a playbook for this, and we really don't want one. Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Talk for a second. Okay. Give me
I
like 30
okay.
seconds. You got it.
All right, let's go through the. I'm not talking about this by myself. Oh, I can't pull comments up. Sorry, guys. Who else is in here? Keeping it, people can enjoy the game simultaneously, be sad and grieve. Yeah, back to Evelyn's point for sure. And I think most of the people did do that, right? Like that's literally what was happening all day yesterday. The flow at the I do I think it was Gracie Walton. The Gracie Walton moment. I was cheering like a little kid for that girl to just oh what kept no yesterday what
Yesterday.
um
I don't know.
I okay.
All right.
But yeah.
Good job. Way to hold it down.
Yeah.
Event. I want a few to finish.
Stressful.
And so we dropped the reps down to 3. And that being said, I think the test and that event turned out to be incredibly effective. And it was like this sprint. It wasn't a sprint at all, but it was something where you had to keep the pedal to the metal and you had to just keep pushing. And if you backed off, you would lose some significant time.
I actually think the workout ended up being a little bit better. Definitely more exciting. I think the onslaught would have been way worse with 10 more rope climbs, and it just would have been slow, right? I think everyone would have came out the same speed because I think some of the times predicted were basically the times that athletes were getting, right? Maybe like 5 minutes difference, but I think it would have been 7 or 8 minutes. Like those rope climbs would have got so slow. I think the workout created way more excitement in general. And it was awesome to see the big guys compete on the back end of that. Like the girls were hard to watch, for sure, right? It was emotional, and I think it was really challenging. And then also it wasn't exciting really at all. Tia was just so far ahead, and it just didn't even make any sense. Like, God, she's just a cyborg. I think she's just on a whole nother world. I was trying to explain to my wife, who doesn't really follow CrossFit. She does. She knows who the big names are, and I was like, "What's the youngest person in Bennett's class?" Bennett's my son. And she was like, or when's his birthday? He's like, it's July. I'm like, well, Bennett's is October, right? So my 1-year-old is 9 months older than the other kid, which is pretty much like a double sized human, right? Like they're just like you grow so much in your, that 1 year, right? Or like from right before you turn 2 to like almost 3. And I was like, Bennett's physical and like mental progression is that compared to a kid half his age. And that's Tia relative to the field. I was like, she's just so far ahead in every aspect. And that was like a great testament to what it was. Cause like, you know, I mean, she just looked like she was cruising, slowed down, and still smoked the time by 45 seconds or whatever it is. She's just on a whole nother world.
And she was a great example too of how two things can be true. She did that. She smashed it. It was not even close. And then she got and gave her interview, and there was just all this raw emotion coming out of her.
Sure. Yeah. She's I don't know if she's coached to talk publicly, but she's a politic for sure. Not that she's lying by any means, but like she's very well spoken and like she always says the right stuff. Like she's really polished in general, like almost to the point of like, you hired some, like it just like always like not
I don't
just
know.
not,
I felt that voice crack.
not
And
this
what,
just not just this year. I mean like all the years, right?
oh,
Like
yeah,
like
okay.
over the past like 5 years, like she's just so polished, and like her image that she gives is just like it's just like it's so pristine in general. It's always really interesting. But yeah, I'm not saying that she wasn't emotional. I think she was very emotional here, right? You know, in general. But like over the years, I've been like, man, how'd you learn to do that? Like, because you know, I mean, she's on the mic 45 times a weekend, right?
Yeah, she's very Tom Brady-esque.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
So, and interestingly, we were really worried today about just running the event because of how the athletes felt and how the fans feel, or how how the community is feeling with everything going on. And when I had the demo team test this at 9 a.m. and at 9 a.m. on the floor, the venue doors open up. So the venue doors open up and fans were filling in. And as they were going through it, I heard fans cheering for the demo athletes. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. They're definitely showing up with some energy and some, you know, passion for the sport. Then when we started doing the heats, we kept the music low, we kept the tone on the commentators low, and we just kind of fed off of the energy of the crowd and of the athletes. And as we went on through the day, we were slowly able to pick up the energy because the crowd was really rallying behind the athletes, and the crowd was really bringing energy up. So we tried to match that. The athletes, they put on amazing performances. We went through that event, the individual event, and actually prior to that, we had a team event that was pretty challenging. Then we had that individual event. Then after that, we broke, did a lot of switch over, had another individual event that was also, the teams did a similar version, the echo bike and burpee. And I talked about that event was supposed to be announced on the floor, because everything going on for today, we decided not to do that. And so we announced it, we just published it or emailed them. That event to me was one of the like staples of this game. So I was like really, I wanted something really short and fast and blasty. It worked out great for the teams. And then with the individuals, at that point in the venue, the energy was much higher and the athletes were going all out. And so that event seemed kind of like it felt like the CrossFit Games Friday night or Thursday night event, a lot of the other games we have done.
Yeah, that was a fun event to watch. Like, you know, I think anything that's 3 minutes or less is going to be good. And I think we talked about it on here. If I predicted how long
you wanted a wall.
Huh? Yeah,
a wall.
I did want a wall, and I still think they could have done like, I don't know, maybe like 2 blocks. I don't know. They could have done like 2 blocks or something. I felt like the one was really lackluster and sad when I saw it. But the workout was exciting, and it always is like that. You're like, this looks dumb, and then usually it ends up.
When Vellner comes back to pass Quant, when the boys are racing, like
yeah, Luckett going full send on the last bike was sick. Yeah, it was awesome.
It was
and then Amy Kringle just like big dick in everybody,
Yep.
just like, hey, look at me, I'm a rookie. And I'm gonna fucking be here for a long time. Like that's. I mean, she's a big girl for sure, but like it was
cool,
impressive, dude.
That was the moment where I think
it.
You started to like put the sadness away a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and just want to be present, and thought it was good for everybody.
Yeah, Max, cheering for athletes feels so wrong, right?
I get it.
And that's okay. Like that's cool. you know, like, I mean, it's, everyone's going to do it a little bit differently. And so, it's tough. I think everyone can accept that they're unsure, like what's okay and what's not, but don't worry about what other people think. Just like focus on you and how you feel about it and what you feel is right. If you don't want to cheer for athletes, then don't, that's totally fine. But if you do, don't feel guilty about it. Right. Like it's okay. Not that I have like that strong of a, you know, influence to anything, but it's fine. All right.
So also prior to that, for the chipper, for the 3 heats of men, we kept the lane open for Dukic, and that was really well received by the athletes. And
Jesus, Dave, that was,
Give Dave some grace right now. He's a little messed up right now. Okay, he needs a minute. He'll be all right. It's a long day. He's.
I don't know if it's like I don't know where I saw it, but he like breaks down how he says his name. Jukic, Jew like juice, and then kitch like kitchen, Jukic. Anyways, yeah, I love the lane open. I thought that was great.
Yep.
I love people sitting with him, and you know, I think it was good. All right.
So we I'm all over the place, but I'm kind of going through the events. Where was I? Oh yeah, the echo bike. So yeah, seeing the performances on that was really cool and amazing, and those guys did a great job, and gals, the females and the men all put on a terrific show with that event. From there, we had a really short window to transition to Farrington Field, and Farrington Field window for that event, because of all the other compression, it also shrunk down to 1 hour, and so the event ended and we had a little more than an hour before that event started. So the gates and the lines to that were really long. But I'm hearing initial reports that there was like 15,000 people or more is what the venue's saying, and so we'll get a number, but it looked really one side looked full and the other side was about 3/4 full, and the energy there was really high. The event, I'm really pleased with how those came out, and
Yeah, I thought it was good. It definitely looked good on TV. It's always so interesting on ESPN. Like there's just a lot of dead time. I felt like they probably could have tried to fill it a little bit better. But I think the event was really good. It was super exciting. We'll get into my like thoughts on the actual event. But yeah, I thought it was good. I thought the team was maybe like, I don't know. I felt like it was just maybe just like a smidge lackluster, but I always feel that way with teams. I don't know. I always feel like it could just be a little bit better. Maybe like down and back or something like that instead of just like a one go. But anyways, it was good.
The last heat of running was awesome. All the teams passing each other. That was fun.
Yes. How about Georgia Pryor just like turning on the jets and like smoking that first heat? That was sick. And then Ricky just like, hey, look, I can sprint, dude. Those were awesome. And then of course Tia won. I thought it was really interesting though, and I think it could have been a programming flaw that Tia went first and Ricky went first. That shouldn't have been the case. Like that shouldn't have been able to happen like that. I mean, on Tia's side, it doesn't matter, but like on the men's side, it probably shouldn't have been able to happen like that. And so it was interesting, like maybe too long of a rest or the bag wasn't heavy enough. We'll get into that. I'm just hypothesizing. We'll finish watching this.
Okay.
Really happy that we switched the order to have the mile go first, and Ricky running that sub 5. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know if anyone understands how fucking crazy that is. And then going on to like sprint like he did, dude, sub 5 that's a no joke mile. Like that's real shit. That's a real runner. That's fast.
He did not look like he cared either. He was just, I'm gonna go.
Oh yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. Well, he wanted sub 5 for sure because he beat it by 10 seconds or 8 seconds. That's a long time. Like he could have slowed down a pretty hefty amount and still won. But he didn't care. He wanted sub 5. Good for him. That was awesome to watch. Yeah. I appreciate this with Tia as well as, you know, even when they're winning and they're doing really well, they still want to like be more impressive, right? And like push the boundaries even further. And I always appreciate that. I think everyone does because it's fun to to see like what we're capable of at the highest level. So,
winning the sprint, which interestingly, Tia did the same thing. She won the mile and she won the sprint. So all of that was I was happy with how Farrington Field went down. So here we are, close of it's 11, almost 11, 10:48. Closing out the full first day of the competition, going into Saturday, and then we'll have a final day Sunday. Obviously, we are not, or we cannot forget what happened, and I think doing this and moving forward and kicking the competition off for the athletes and the fans and the community was the right thing to do. As hard as it is for a lot of people involved, athletes, fans, organizers, staff, it was necessary. And it was necessary to make this decision and go this direction. And I do appreciate everyone involved, all the fans and staff, and all the staff and volunteers, and yeah, even the fans, everyone who's involved, and the fans and giving their energy to the athletes. I appreciate the athletes taking the floor. I talked to a lot of them and I said, hey, I know it's incredibly difficult to do that at this point, but it's really helping the community too. It's helping them heal. So incredibly tough decision to go forward, but one that I believe was the right call. And so tomorrow we'll have another full day of competition. One of the big things, one of the big changes, so we're still going to kick off with Chad, but we're going to do it a little differently. Man, I don't even know if we've announced a twist, but I will say this. There was going to be progression of athletes in 2 heats, one heat of all men, one heat of all women. Now, because of working on timeline, and this is the other thing. So we're not cutting athletes till Sunday, so till Saturday night. So all the athletes will be able to advance through till tomorrow. And so that made some major changes to some of the clean events, specifically in the evening events. So because of that, we had to adjust some schedules. I'm really excited about tomorrow's evening event. The clean event now, all 40 athletes will do everything tomorrow. So I don't want to talk too much about tomorrow anymore. But we're going forward, and obviously keep the family in mind, and we'll put on a great show tomorrow. All right, thanks a lot.
Yeah, the beginning of it, I just think that's a thing right now. People feel like they'll be forgetting. Oh, hi, what's up?
There we go.
People
Your face.
They feel like they'll be forgetting Lazar, or somehow not bringing him along,
Sure.
or forgetting the tragedy or the things that need to happen to fix, the protocols or whatever it is. And I don't think that's true. I don't think the people that want to move on and do the games, and the fans that want to cheer, and the people that, want to, I don't think they're forgetting him or leaving him behind, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think so. I think it's all, it's tough, man. I definitely, David, we sort of addressed this earlier. So we won't really address it any further, but, I think the only option was to find some way to perform a competition, for the fans, for the sport, for the athletes. And so I'm glad they went this direction. And you might not agree with me, and that's totally fine. Right. And if you think that they should have stopped, that's totally within your bit. But, I think that would have just been an unrecoverable response, in the sense of like the sport, the athletes, everything. We talked about this earlier too, Slater. I don't think it was strange. I think maybe right there for the second, but other heats, it just happened to be that everyone in that heat specifically waited, right? Like if there was 5 teams that didn't wait, you wouldn't have thought anything of it, right? So like if they weren't in the first heat or the last heat, then it wouldn't have been, you wouldn't even have thought twice about it. So I think it was just a byproduct of how it looked on the floor, right? And then Angelo responded to it super, super well. Yeah, so this is great. So to what end, right? Like it should have been unrecoverable for like to what end? So the CrossFit just now ceases to exist, right? It's all over. This podcast is done. My company is done. Mayhem's done. Like everything just ends. We don't have anything anymore. Right. So, and I'm not saying that someone shouldn't be held accountable. But I'm very, very passionate in the sense of like, like everything CrossFit should just go, like should just be absolved and burned to the ground is the fucking craziest thing that I could ever hear. And I'm really passionate about that. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the play. Yeah, for sure. Right. Maybe this puts them in a position, like I said earlier, that they this is you're insane if you think that them not continuing this weekend would mean that the sport would be like viable in the future. The only thing that would probably be viable is the methodology and the affiliate version of it, the non-sport side. Right. But anyways, I don't want to talk about this. I'm gonna get way too heated. I try not to do.
I was just going to say, people really, you want to punish HQ, and I get it. I
Sure.
get you want HQ to have repercussions for this. But canceling the CrossFit Games wasn't it. You have to punish the protocol, fix the protocol, do
Sure.
that. Changes inside the organization, but not just burn the organization down.
Right. Yeah, this is the normal response for sure. It still makes me mad. All right. Let's see. What else? All right. Schedule today. It was up. I think it's changed. Do you have it?
I always have the barbell spin up.
I know, but it's not there. It's not pinned anymore. I took it down.
Saturday, 8 a.m. to 10:30 is the first Indy event.
No, I think they moved it to 9.
Oh, did they?
I think so. I'm like 90% sure that like they said that late last night. Let's go to YouTube. Let's see if the live stream starts.
Let me click
Oh, shut up and scribble one on early. Fuckers. Little shit nuggets. Okay. CrossFit Games. Live. Do we have a stream? 9 a.m. Starts at 9.
Okay.
So, and then it says 4:30. So I don't know when the events are in between that, but they'll be there. Games app has the schedule. Thanks, Paper Street. Look at that. Let's see. Schedule. All right. So
I'm actually
Saturday.
excited for Chad, but I also like watching the marathon row too. So
I think they have like a twist. There's like a step up and over a box thing. They were trying to explain it last night on, I don't know, somewhere. So Chad at 9 to 10:15, team workout 11:30 to 12:35, clean ladder 1 to 3. Basically, that's crazy. Why the fuck does the clean ladder take so long? Team workout 3 to 4, and then individuals is 5 to 7:30. Let's talk about the fact that James, like, there's a very, very similar athlete at the top of our leaderboard across the bit. We'll talk a little bit about that. All right.
I love Sprague. I'm so excited for him. Just the fact that he's even in the leader's jersey.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's handling it like a champ too.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, he is. His interview was really good yesterday. Yeah. Okay. All right. So James, Roman are kind of separated, right? But from 3rd to 10th is only 40 points, right? 40 points is nothing. That's one event, right? So I think the question is Ricky done? That's what Kenneth thought. Not a chance. No, not even a little bit. No. I think Vellner has a really good chance to win. Even though this win might be asterisks. My
wife just started yelling in the other room, by the way, that you said that.
Yeah. I do. He's within 50 points 4 events in, And the only thing that's going to be left is a fuckload of CrossFit.
Yep.
Everyone's up for grabs. James is going to probably fall off. The clean ladder is going to hurt him a lot in the high volume CrossFit stuff. He'll still be in good shape after Chad, but I don't think it lasts for that. The leaderboard on both sides, men and women, is slanted because of the removal of Amanda 45. Okay. And so there's been like midline climb was shortened. And so that benefited a bigger athlete because the ski was a bigger thing and the rope climbs were devalued, right? Now everything was really balanced, but it wasn't a balanced test. It was a very high volume upper body pulling test. And it wasn't that case at the end. So there's a huge change in the athlete that benefited, right? Like you saw Yellow Hosta got 9th. He was literally at failure, right? He would have been in the bottom, right? I think Pat still would have won. I don't think Jason would have done as well. Jason would have struggled a little more, right? And so the bigger athlete was able to lean into the less rope climbs. 10 less rope climbs. There's of all our top 5 athletes are over 6 feet tall. That's fucking insane. That's like,
I love it. I'm a big person.
Yeah.
I always root for the bigger ones.
I'm all for it, but it does show that there is a lean into like the adjustment of programming to this point right now. So we have James at the top. I don't think he stays there. I think Roman stays there. I think Brent's in great position for the clean to get through this day, depending on what the night event is. Jason's in great position. I think really we see this 4 through like 7. I don't know. Dallin's a little further down. I think he's going to do okay. He'll do great at the clean ladder. He'll do good at Chad. But I mean, this is like where it is, this is what's going to continue to move in whatever direction. But I think it benefits most Roman, Jason, and Ricky and Pat. I think those are like that's where we're going to see as our top 4 at the end, based on where the leaderboard is and what we assume is left. Especially if Amanda 45 doesn't show its face Sunday morning, right? Which I don't think they can.
The only small guys are Ricky and Jay. How does Jay do?
I don't know. He's not going to do good on the clean ladder. And I mean, we don't know any of the other events. So, I mean, he's in the hunt for sure. But I don't know if his fitness is up to par. We saw everyone put on a great show yesterday. Jason putting on a show with Dallin. That was awesome. And I don't know. This is crazy, right? I don't know if you guys realize how close this is right here. That's wild. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun day for sure. I think we're going to. He's as thick, but he's short. He's shorter. He's not like wildly tall. But yeah, when you saw him running, you're like, God damn, that's a big dude. Like when he was running his mile, he looked like a fucking action figure.
Yeah, he did.
Like a stumpy action figure, right? Like one that was like they like shortened it and they like gave it way too big of muscles. Like that's what he looked like. He's got like a lot of Dan Bailey feel happening in his upper body, like his chest is kind of small and his arms are really big. So, all right. On the women's side, taking out Tia, this leaderboard will change drastically. This is literally the same exact athlete across the board right here. Boom. These 4 athletes, maybe not Gabby. Gabby's a little stronger, but these 3 are the same exact person. And that's because there hasn't been a bar, like a heavy barbell at all yet, right? They're all going to fall when there's a lot more CrossFit. Haley won't. Haley will get through the clean ladder. The 3-3, the adjustment to the clean ladder is really beneficial for Haley because it's going to hurt some people to get out of the first bar, but maybe not her. I think she might be able to get out of the first bar since there's more volume, right? Because she handles that, like, because they can power clean that first bit. But Emily's going to struggle. Bethany's going to struggle. You know, I would think Bethany might struggle on Chad. Chad can be a little bit of a back burner. So, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be, it's anyone's race, obviously, besides Tia. You know, I mean, she's going to continue to run away with it. Tia could get 5 more first place, you know, to finish off the weekend. It's very possible. So yeah, it's nuts.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Yeah, I think so. We don't have to go into a big analysis or anything here. Is there anything else you want to chat about?
No, I just the weekend, I hope just the energy starts to rise and rise and rise and rise, and
Yep.
that's all.
Yeah. Well, make sure to head over to, I think Shut Up and Scribble is on. So head over there, for more of the full analysis stuff. And enjoy the day, guys, right? You know, remember, we are the community, right? And we're the reason it pushes forward, or if it doesn't, right? So I think that the more people that tune in, right? You know, we have 100,000 people watching YouTube. That's a great thing, right? You know, we have everyone there and in full support. That's a good thing, right? You don't have to be in full support. You can be upset with CrossFit, but if you want CrossFit to live on, right, you got to show, you know, you got to show some support, right? We have to focus on what's next. You know, CrossFit's going to do their thing. There's probably going to be legal stuff. There's probably going to be a bunch of, you know, like ups and downs moving forward. So, you know, just stay in for the long haul, right? I love this sport. The sport has given me so much in my life, and I want it to continue. And so, I want, you know, all the right course of action to happen and the people to be held responsible, but I don't want this to die. Right. And so I hope you feel the same way. So, yeah.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right, guys. See ya.